Hey, it's for real Thursday, March 1st, done with February as we're moving along. Today, book report comes due in, March 1st, I should say the actual date. Let's see, I still have to tell you. Book report, make sure you turn it in. Book report, if you're not here, then we'll get a chance to turn you in. Good job, I know, how exciting day. Those of you at home, hopefully zoom into that area for no particular reason. Let's see, and... if you're at home, make sure you bring your book report. The problem is if you're watching this video and you're at home, your book report is officially late. It does count you the late grade unless you bring me a note from a parent saying that you were sick and it was done prior to school starting today. If you don't bring the note, then it automatically counts as late because some kids skip school that they do, and I can't be nice to you. But the other thing is, we have a speech, your first official big speech being assigned to you. And this is the one that's going to also count as your third 9 weeks grade. So to find out what you're supposed to do, here's where you're going to go and find the directions and the rubric. And there's also another button on there that's going to say examples. This is going to give you examples of what you're going to do. Essentially, what you're going to do for this speech is Greek mythology. You're going to have to look up your own story from Greek mythology, and you're going to tell it to us. Just like I do in class, except you're doing a different story. It cannot be a story that we've already covered. So you're going to make sure whichever story that you're choosing to do, it cannot be one that we have covered up to this point. If we end up getting to your story next week, then you're going to need to tell me next week, hey, I'm doing this one for my speech, and then I'll be able to clear you. But if you don't tell me, then you'll be out of luck the day that we do it. The other thing you cannot do is you cannot make up a story. You can't just create one and say, one day Zeus was playing soccer and he tripped and fell, and that's why we have rain. That's not the way it works. You have to actually look up a real story, read it, and then tell it to us in your own words, beginning, middle, and end. Yes, more than one person can do the same story because of the whole idea of oral tradition. Stories can change, and that's absolutely fine with me. Even if all 30 kids all did the exact same story, you'd all tell it in a different way. Most of the information would probably be the same, but each of your tellings of it would be different. So that's why it's absolutely fine with me. You do get to use a note card. Once again, it'll be on the desk behind you. Once again, you'll be standing up on the chair and stuff like that. It's pretty much all the same things as before, as far as the no ands, ums, and likes, the no pausing. Other than that, most of their stuff is going to be in the directions to try and help you. The biggest thing will be finding a story that you like, reading it, and then finding a way to retell it to us. Strong.
For examples, are we allowed to use those?
Mm-hmm. So you said this one was going to be 2 to 3, but it says 1 to 2 on here.
Yep, that's probably 1 to 2.
What are these ones? You got me all scared.
Whatever says
for
on the directions.
No reason.
Yeah. Boo.
Only 1 and 2.
Apparently it's not. Go back and check. I think it might not be longer. I'm sorry. Part of the issue that you have with the longer part is as they keep increasing class sizes, I can't make longer speeches. Because if I give you guys 3 to 5 minutes, we're doing speeches for 4 weeks. So we can't. So I have to, bigger class sizes means shorter speeches. And so, yeah, I know. For some of you guys, yay. For others of you, not so yay. And it's just the fact that it's the drawback to it. If we only had like a class of 4 kids, I could let you talk like a half hour each. But we don't, so we can't. I mean, not that I would let you talk for a half hour each, but
That'd be really boring.
that's how I feel too. I mean, not me. I talk for a half hour every day. I'm excellent at it. But for you guys, minute and a half, about as far as I can go. Then, now you can put your iPad away. We're done with that one because I'm guessing we have a few other questions. I'll touch back on it again next week to give you more information to try and help you out. You have homework that is going to be due next week. Once again, connects to the quiz tomorrow. The quiz tomorrow is going to cover all those stories up to this point, including the story that we're going to be going through today to try and help you out, which we're going to try and speed through because we got to the whole God eating his children yesterday. I think we got through the God eating his children yesterday.
We stopped at him vomiting.
Ooh, the rainbow vomit works for me. And let's see, speedily, the 3 brothers, because Prometheus is...
Super smart teacher.
Prometheus.
Strong.
There you go. And going back to here, the 2 ingredients used to make mankind.
Water.
Dirt. And only season that was in existence.
Man.
Man.
The only season that existed,
Summer.
which is neither of the answers you guys yelled at before. Mud is not really a season.
Someone said man and mud.
Correct, those are all the wrong answers, so proud of you.
I said summer.
Cronus and his children, his worry is the gift given to him by his father, and what gift did his father give him? Which said,
As long
Overthrown by
as
child
killed.
do
Overthrown
you remember
by
the first baby that was born?
Hestia.
Why can we not just stab the baby to solve the problem? Why can we not throw it in the hole to solve the problem?
Kill you.
So what problem? How does he solve the problem?
He eats it.
Yum yum.
He
Just
skips
like
her and
with
eats her.
delicious Hershey bar. And ooh, how many babies does he eat?
8.
5. 4. 5. 3.
4.
Technically,
12.
5
7.
babies.
Okay, I was guessing.
I noticed that. So we got to the last baby, and then we got, what's the last baby's name?
Zeus.
And that's when Rhea goes and gets advice from her mother about what to do with the last baby. And instead of giving her husband a baby, what does she give him?
Rock.
That's when she gives him the rock instead. He ends up gobbling down the rock. And this is where Zeus ends up growing up down on Earth with Mother Earth and Rhea raising him. Things go well for a long time until he decides that he wants to then go back and get his brothers and sisters freed. When he wants to go back and get his brothers and sisters freed, he can't just go choppy across his father's middle. Why would that not work? He kills his brothers and sisters.
No, it would cut their arms.
There you go, and you don't want to injure them for the first time. So amputation, big word. And so what does he use instead?
Poison.
Poison is Mountain Dew.
Took us a while.
It did. And then he uses the poison Mountain Dew, which the poison Mountain Dew makes his father do what?
Throw up.
And
Don't
gurgle,
think of any
gurgle.
ideas.
And this is where we got to?
Gosh.
So, as soon as Cronus begins the drinking of the poison Mountain Dew, he ends up throwing up. The first thing he throws up is a rock that lands in front of him, dressed in a diaper, in a little blanket. And he and Zeus give each other that awkward look that you do after throwing up a rock dressed in a diaper. That didn't know I ate that. And Zeus is like, you eat really weird things. And then all of a sudden, after throwing up the rock, he machine gun vomits the next 5 babies. And fires out, wait, rock. Fires out 5 more babies that land on the ground in front of him. These babies, of course, being the Hestia, Hera, Demeter, Hades, and Poseidon. These babies land in front of him, shake off all the in front of him. Cronus freaks out. He's like, oh no, barf babies. And Zeus is like, unite together, my barf baby brethrens. And they all rise up and begin fighting against Cronus. And this becomes our first beginning of this big war between Cronus and all of his children. Eventually, here we go, Cronus versus all of his children, being led by the 3 brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. The 3 brothers who are the main ones leading this big war against their father. The women are there, and they do participate in the fight, but it mostly focuses on the males because they were sexist and they had issues. And so we have this great big war going on. But during this big war, neither side is able to win the war, no matter how much fighting they do. And it goes on for years. And why can neither side win? Because they can't kill each other. All you can do is hurt each other. And because they're all titans, it does you no good when you run up and go, arm chop, leg chop, arm chop, back to the first one. Arm chop, leg chop, arm. Back to the first. And it kept going forever and ever, the arm choppy, leggy choppies. It becomes exhausting. And years go by of all of this fighting. Eventually, by the way, instead of Cronus versus his children, it becomes referred to as the Titans versus the Olympians. Although realize they're all Titans. It's just that later on, these become the Olympians. But they are still Titans. Just like if it was the heroes versus the 7th graders, heroes are still 7th graders. You're just a type of 7th grader. Zoe.
So you said that he couldn't slit his stomach because then it would chop their arms off, but now you're saying that if he chopped their arms off, it would regrow.
They would, but you still don't want to beat them for the first time, chopping them off as opposed to just making them puke them up. Even though I could
rather have it
punch Holly in the face, she's going to heal from it, but it might still make her grumpy. Let's find out. It's a science experiment.
I'm not gonna forget about that knife and
haunt you forever. So fighting goes on for a long time. To the point where eventually Cronus steps down as the leader of the fighting on his side. Has a friend of his step up as the new leader. Because he realizes that, well, even though he's a good king, he is not the good leader of an army. And has his friend Atlas step up. Because Atlas is super strong, he becomes the leader of the army, runs down there just smashing all the Olympians left and right. Zeus and Cronus both begin getting other gods to rally to their sides. They start talking to them. Zeus is very charismatic and very outgoing. Talks to all these other gods like, listen, I'm all for not eating babies. Babies have rights too, and they should not grow up in their parents' bellies. If you support me, join my side. And other guys are like, baby life matters. And so they start joining Zeus' side. Cronus, of course, goes out to other guys like, listen, we brought babies into this world. We can eat those babies if we want to. It's not our fault. They're delicious. If you're pro-baby eating, you join my side. And other guys are like, oh, babies are good tasting. And so they start going over to Cronus' side. And so you have these two big sides that keep rising up, adding more and more people, and you sort of have to pick a side. Zeus decides to try and win this war. He goes and talks to his grandmother. And who's Zeus' grandmother? Gaia, Mother Earth. Gaia, Mother Earth. Goes and talks to Gaia. He's like, listen, Grandmammy, this battle's been going on a long time, and neither side's winning, and I'd like to do anything I can to help. I'm sure you'd like to help me because you like me more than Cronus. What advice can you give me? Well, the problem is Gaia's getting old, and now when she speaks, what she speaks in is kind of gibberish and riddles, as what happens with old people because they get all senile. So when she answers him, it doesn't make any sense. She tells him, he who wants to turn the tide of battle must release the beast within. And Zeus goes, I don't know what you're talking about, Grandma. She's like, he's like, I heard the words, but it means nothing to me. He's like, whatever, old lady, you're useless. And he walks away and leaves her. Once this information has been given to Zeus, things change. Prometheus, one day sitting up on Mount Olympus, doing his na-na-na-na, seeing into the future to help out Cronus, goes, no, Poopy! Because he sees now that Zeus is going to win. Something has changed, and Zeus is now going to win the war. Not only is Zeus going to win the war, anyone on Cronus' side will be tortured after the war. Prometheus does not want to be tortured. So he goes and confronts Cronus and goes, listen, bad news. We're not going to win. I did my future thing, and I see the fact that your son's going to win. We need to find a way to make things better. We have to go and apologize and say baby lives matter and make things better. Cronus refuses to do it. He goes, I'm not going to give up my baby eating rights. I don't care if you feel that way or not. I'm not going to agree to it. Not a problem. Right here. Very so he refuses to give in. Prometheus goes, all right, fine. Brody, I apologize. That shit, whatever. Randy, you all look the same to me. Prometheus goes, fine. Just because you won't change sides, I'm going to. So Prometheus quits Cronus' side and decides to go over and join Zeus. But before he leaves, he wants to try and take his brothers with him because he actually cares about them. And he goes and talks to Epimetheus. And he goes, Epimetheus, bad news. We're going to end up losing this war, so I'm switching sides. I'd love for you to come with me. What do you say? And Epimetheus goes, I love squirrels. And Prometheus goes, what now? And Epimetheus goes, squirrels are fuzzy. And Prometheus goes, right, that's weird. So Epimetheus, look, brick. Hits Epimetheus in the head, and he's like, oh, whatever, and brings Epimetheus with him. And Epimetheus switches sides with him. He goes and talks to third brother, Atlas. He goes, Atlas, bad news. We're going to lose the war. I'd really like for you to come with me because bad things happen. Not only do bad things happen, you get tortured the worst of all. So please come with me and don't stay with Cronus. Atlas refuses. Atlas says, I can't do it because I have all these people relying on me. If I quit, it's not just me leaving. It's the fact that all these people who are following me would also be without a leader. I can't do it. So Atlas refuses to leave. He and Prometheus have a little bro hug at the end, a little tap tap on the back of each other, and he leaves Atlas behind, and Prometheus and Epimetheus go over to Zeus' side. When they get to Zeus' side, they go and knock on the little cave door, and Zeus is like, hey, who are you? Prometheus goes, my name's Prometheus. I used to work for Cronus. I can see the future, which is a really cool ability to have. I saw the future. you're going to win. I want to help you out. Zeus goes, done deal. Love to help you. Love the future seeing thing. And I love the fact you see that I'm going to win. You're on my side. Who's this other guy? Prometheus goes, oh, that's my brother Epimetheus. Zeus goes, can he see the future too? Prometheus goes, not so much, but he can do this. And he goes, Epimetheus, wall. Epimetheus goes, runs into the wall and falls down. Zeus goes, oh, hilarious. He's on my side too. So he brings over Prometheus and Epimetheus, and they both join his side. And nothing changes. For years long, it keeps going until one day, Zeus and Prometheus are talking. And Zeus goes, listen, you're all smarty smart and stuff like that. I talked to Grandma, and she was all like jibber-jabbery, crazy person, but maybe you can make some sense of it. She said something about, he who released the beast within shall turn the tide of war. It means nothing to me. Does it mean anything to you? And he goes, yeah, I believe I know what she's talking about. Because what's she talking about? Which, of course, very few people know about except for Cronus and his inner circle. Prometheus was part of that inner circle. So he explains to Zeus, well, there's this pit called Tartarus, and in there are your great-great-uncles, brothers? How are you going to look at uncles? We'll go with uncles. Uncles that are trapped down there. They're humongous, and Cronus never released them, and Mother Earth has always wanted them out. Zeus goes, why didn't he release them then? And Prometheus tells him, well, rumor is, and I've never seen them, that they're a little on the ugly side, so Cronus kept them down there. Zeus goes, how ugly can they be? Prometheus goes, I don't know. So Zeus decides to release them. He goes, this must be what Grandma was talking about. If I release them, I'm going to win. So he heads down and finds the little cave that takes him down to the pit of Tartarus and decides he's going to release all of them so that he can win. Excuse me. Goes down, finds the big double doors, undoes the lock, wanders in and is like, my name is Zeus, and I am here to... Oh! Jeez. What are those? And he's like, I believe those are the big, ugly monsters. He's like, I think it should be big, ugly monsters because you stressed the wrong thing. Those things are horrifying. But Zeus really, really wants to win. So he has to sort of bite down. He's like, okay, be strong. He's like, he walks. He's like, hey, how you guys doing? And the monster's like, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, blah, blah, back at you. He was like, hey, you've been trapped in this pit by this guy by the name of Cronus for a long time. I would like to free you and release you and allow you to get revenge and fight against him. What do you say about that? And the monster's like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, blah, blah, back at you. Here's the problem. You're horrifyingly ugly. Looking at you makes me die on the inside. So, at the end of the war, I'm going to need you to hide on the edge of Earth so I never have to see you. So I need you to go behind a mountain and look away. Can you agree to that? Because at least you'll be free with a good view and I don't have to look at you. And the monsters think they're like, blocka, blocka. And he's like, blocka, blocka, back at you. And he releases the big, ugly monsters and frees them from the pit. Under the agreement, they hide on the edge of Earth at the end. Once they leave, he looks down and he's like, oh, there's still more down there. He's like, who are you guys? And they're like, we're the Cyclops. He's like, you're not ugly at all. Why are you down there? Like, we have the ability to make super powerful weapons. Zeus goes, what now? They're like, we make really powerful weapons out of metal. He's like, hey, here's a rope. And pulls out the 3 Cyclops. He goes, I would love for you to join my team also. And the 3 Cyclops join his team. The Cyclops are so excited about joining his team, they immediately begin work on creating weapons to help out him and his 2 brothers. And the Cyclops go, let's use our superpowers to create weapons for you to help you beat the guy who's kept us trapped down there, getting stomped on all this time by those big ugly monsters, and it was horrible, and so we want to get as much revenge as we can get. The first most important brother, Zeus, they make for him the bestest weapon of all, because he's the one that actually freed them. And for him they make?
Lightning bolt.
Close. It was actually a bucket of lightning bolts. And so what they actually believed, but you can't actually make a lightning bolt, that's complete redonkulous. What you made was a bucket that you could put your hand into, it electrifies it, and then you can throw the electricity at people like big electrified boogers. And that was sort of how things worked. Luckily, I was able to do enough research. I tracked down an actual picture of what they thought the weapon looked like shortly after the Cyclops made it, which I was pretty excited to find. And so that was the bucket of electricity that he could reach his hand into. And phew, it was powerful enough it would actually do damage and hurt even the Titans. The second most important brother, Poseidon. They make for him an attacky weapon. And he gets...
A trident.
Nice little. He gets the trident, the thing that has the 3 prongy bits, which gives him the power to
Stop things. Move the ocean.
to control water. Basically, he could control all of the oceans and the salt water. It was more the controller of oceans than it was just normal water, but in all of the creatures in there, in all of the water, and you could stab 3 people at once. And then after you cleaned it, you could then cook 3 marshmallows at once over fire, and it did pretty well. Which made him really popular at parties in the fall after football games. And then the third brother was Hades. And he was not on the real big attacky side. And Hades like, I don't want one that requires me to be all up in someone's face. What can you give me? And the Cyclops were like, we got you, bro. And for Hades they give him a helmet of invisibility. That every time you put it on, you would fade away. And which works right to Hades' strength. Because he was like, oh no, there's a battle. Whink, yay. And he would disappear. Hades' main attack with all of the gods during the fights is in the middle of a big battle. He'd put on the helmet, and he'd get down on all 4s and then run around and tabletop all the other gods. Where he'd go right behind their legs, they'd push each other over, and he'd just run around giggling. Ha ha ha, I got you. And had all kinds of fun stuff. I was able to track down a picture of this one too. If you ever want to see Hades' invisible helmet, that was an actual picture, a photograph they got of it at the time. If you're having trouble seeing it, if you look at the one above Buddy, up there on his head, you'll see the fact that I'm making fun of you because it's invisible again. But it did make it fun for me. Zoe!
Okay, so can I read you this and make sure it makes sense?
Sure.
Okay, so it asks, who is the king of the Olympians? And
Yes.
I said Zeus.
Yes.
Is that correct? And then the king leader of the Titans, Cronus.
Yes.
And then the general was Atlas.
Yes.
Yay.
I agree. Lurton!
Is the helmet made out of John Cena yum?
You think so? The way it works out. Tailby?
So, this is pretty unrelated, but are Prometheus, Epimetheus, and Atlas Titans?
Yes.
Yes.
They're all Titans.
Okay.
Fitz?
You got into who were the new weapons that Zeus
Yep, we already answered that.
the Cyclops and
Yep.
the monsters?
There you go. I have favorite.
I would consider them things, not weapons.
Well, they're different ones, but it says who and what. So who are the weapons and what are the weapons? 2 different answers. So now, with the big ugly monsters being released and the weapons being used by these 3 brothers, the tide of war finally begins to shift for Zeus. And Zeus' side finally begins to win. With the big ugly monsters, they're large enough that even though you can't kill the Titans, you can put them in enough pain. That the big ugly monsters just sort of walk around, stomping on Titans as they walked, picking up big mounds and just going crush, 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 and then putting it back. And even though the Titans weren't dead, they'd sit there all twitchy, they'd get like, whoa, and they'd get reformed, they're like, smash again, reform, smash again, reform, like, okay, stop it, I give up. And so Zeus kept giving him the choice. If you don't want us to keep smashing you and making you throw up on yourselves, join my side. So more and more Titans kept leaving Cronus' side and joining Zeus' side, which shifted the war even stronger onto his side. Eventually, Zeus ends up winning. Most of the gods that he ends up capturing, any god that refused to give up, he puts down into the pit of Tartarus. He just chucks them down there for eternity, and they're just never seen again. For the rest of Greek mythology, any god that stuck with Cronus is gone, except for 2. One is Cronus himself, who manages to escape at the end. Most stories say that shortly after Cronus escaped the end of the war, he spends the rest of his life living in Italy, just in hiding. But for whatever reason, he manages to escape punishment from Zeus. The other one who gets punished is Atlas, the leader of the army and the general. He gets a different punishment, which happens in a moment. During the big war, it was believed the sky was a bowl, like breakfast bowl, not like bowl like that charges you. The sky was a bowl that was sitting on top of a mountain. And during this great big war, the sky bowl was starting, the mountain that it sat on was slowly destroyed. And so the sky was starting to slip off, which leads to one of our problems here in a moment. During the war, humans all died off. Every last human was destroyed during this war because the gods didn't care. While they were doing like giant suplexes off the top of mountains and flying into each other, or throwing boulders at each other, or gigantic monsters stomping on things, the humans just got crushed and destroyed. The whole first race of humans are gone. Once Zeus takes over, he reminds the monsters of what they agreed to. And what did the monsters agree to? And they happily do it. The monsters take off, run to the edge of the world. Oh, let's back up and get to those two. I thought the monsters were first. The Cyclops, the first ones, after they get done, they end up going and finding a mountain and hiding inside of it. And sort of like Hephaestus does later on, they just hide in the middle of a mountain and create a forge down there and keep on doing their own thing. And for the most part, just don't interact with the other gods. The Cyclops do their own thing, and except for a few stories later on, they don't really show up in much Greek mythology. They just go on and do their own thing, hiding in a mountain. The big ugly monsters run all the way to the edge of the earth, sit down over there, dangle their legs off the end, and are just never seen from again. They only pop up in a few rare stories when explorers make it to the very edge. Sometimes if you made it to the wrong edge, you'd find one with a giant monster there that looked like the size of like a mountain, and it would freak people out. The problem with this whole sky thing, as it got destroyed up there, Zeus comes up with a plan with the guy who led the armies against him. He decides he's going to punish Atlas. So he makes Atlas lift the sky onto his back as his punishment. So he makes him step up on the top of the mountain, lift the sky onto his back, and hold it. Now, the problem with this punishment is if I were to tell you, I'm going to lay on the ground, RJ, and your punishment is you have to hold this really heavy weight above my head, because if you drop the weight, I'm going to die. That's your punishment. What's the first thing RJ does?
Drop it.
Oh no! Well, punishment over. Zeus realized that's going to be the issue with making Atlas hold it up there. So what Zeus does to Atlas to make sure he never drops it, is he releases Atlas's daughters from the pit of Tartarus. He had 9 daughters, the Hesperides, who had fought against Zeus to the very end. So Zeus goes down to the pit of Tartarus, releases the 9 of them, and lets them live at the base of the mountains. They can go up and visit their father whenever they want. And he goes, you can drop the sky if you want to, and you'll kill me and all of your daughters. And so because of that, Atlas continues to hold the sky upon his back. And oftentimes, you'll see the picture of Atlas holding the sky upon his back, which looks something like that. Mr. Brovicast, it looks like he's holding the earth on his back. You're right. Because in most of the artistic drawings of him, he's holding the earth. He does not hold the earth. The problem is, how do you draw a picture of someone holding the sky? It looks all awkward. It looks like you're just like, and doing some kind of weird flying thing because the sky is kind of invisible. So whenever artists drew it, they flipped it around and showed him holding the world on his back instead. So technically it's not what he's holding, but artists, they're the worst. And so the sky gets pushed up to there, and now his whole job is to hold it so it does not fall and crush people. RJ.
Why was this different from the other Titans?
So why does he punish Atlas different than the other ones?
Because
He was a
friend of
general.
Cronus.
He was the one who was in command.
So that's the one that makes Zeus the most angry because Atlas was a really good general, and he was really faithful and refused to switch sides. Tailby?
Have we covered number 23 yet?
No idea. I don't have my number memorized. Now, the 3 brothers decide they're going to split up the world into 3 separate kingdoms. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades each take one part of the world as their own. And Zeus gets first choosies because he kind of led everything and freed his brothers and sisters. So Zeus gets first dibs. And he takes everything above the land and everything in the air. Essentially, if it's on the ground, all the way through the sky, that is part of Zeus's kingdom, which is absolutely fine with Poseidon. Because Poseidon's like, that's fine, I don't want any of that. Because what does Poseidon want?
Liquid.
Poseidon takes everything in the water. He's like, as long as it is in the water, it is mine. And the way the Greeks believed it worked is if you were running from Zeus and jumped into the ocean, Zeus could not touch you because you were no longer in his kingdom. Now, he could ask his brother to give you up, but it was basically you have immunity from him. But as soon as you went from water to land, you were now in Zeus's kingdom. And of course, Hades, the last brother, gets.
Underworld.
And for the most part, he was not left with the underworld. He was happy with the underworld. Because being down there meant that he did not have to deal with any of the other gods. So he happily goes to the underground area as the place that he gets to live, because now no god has to talk to him. And now we have our Olympians, which will be where we begin with you guys next week. Except don't forget tomorrow we have a quiz. And we're also going to be talking about We the People tomorrow.